When you're speeding down the road of life and you come to an intersection, which way do you go? Welcome to Plot Twist Media's Crossroad.
Which way do you go? Do you take the easy road or do you take the road less traveled like today's guest? Welcome to Plot Twist Media's Crossroad, the homecast where the team from Plot Twist Media interviews people who are making a change in the world. I'm Phillip Deems.
And I'm Kevin O'Neill, and we are really excited to be here today with our guest, Mr. Harris Rosen.
Welcome, Mr. Rosen, to Plot Twist Media's Crossroad.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Mr. Rosen, for the one or two people that don't know your story, that's probably about it, especially in the Orlando, Florida area. Let's talk a little bit about the backstory. And, I know your family played a major part in your growing up, and not just in your growing up, but also influencing how you run your hotels. Can you give us a little bit about that backstory?
Well, yeah, it started when I was born on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. Mom's family came from Austria-Hungary. Dad's family came from Belarus. Mm-hmm. Like so many other immigrant families, they settled on the Lower East Side, where tens of thousands of immigrants from Eastern Europe, from Italy, from Ireland came and settled. And that's where I was born, and that's where I was raised. And I think it had a very significant impact on my life. Mom and Dad and myself and my brother were told by Mom and Dad repeatedly, if you guys want to leave the neighborhood, education is the way to get out. We didn't really fully comprehend that. We were having fun in the neighborhood, playing stickball and,
of course,
Johnny and a Pony and a bunch of other games, all with that little Spalding.
Oh yeah. And
so we were happy kids, but we did discover that there was another life, and so we studied hard and we did well. And somehow I was accepted to Cornell University.
Very nice.
The first in the family to be
Bravo.
In college. My brother went to University of Miami and became a doctor. And so that was really the beginning. And then after Cornell, right into the Army, I was ROTC.
Yes, sir.
Did my basic training at Fort Bragg. Went overseas to Asia and then Europe. And then started my career. And that's it. And so when I hear people saying not so nice things about America, and they're entitled, absolutely.
Of course.
When players don't stand when the national anthem is playing, I understand that. It's their right. But it does hurt a bit because I love this country so much. From where I came from to where we are today, we say is really an American dream. Only in America can something like this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it could happen in China. Maybe it could happen in France. I don't know. But here in America, there's so many stories like mine. I'm not unique at all. And so
I would tend to disagree with you. I think you're very unique.
No. Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. There's so many thousands upon thousands of individuals with stories that are quite similar to mine.
Good to hear.
And we did it because there's so many wonderful opportunities here. If you work hard, if you have a dream, if you respect others, if you're honest, and if you really enjoy what you're doing, as you guys obviously do,
yes, sir.
Then you can become successful. And so I love America. And when people disparage it does hurt a bit, but I recover quickly and try to encourage them to think a little bit more positively about things.
Sure. Lead by example.
When you were sitting in your office and you just put the only $20,000 you had into the first hotel, did you ever envision that this was where you'd be one day?
Oh no. You see, I when I left the Army, I got a job at the Waldorf where my dad was a sign painter. And
yeah, tell us that story. That's a great story.
That is a great story.
Well, Dad did sign painting. He worked for the safety engineering department, but didn't do as well as he hoped he would. So one day he started doing some lettering on little place cards. And he took it to the banquet manager and said, instead of the printed cards, what if I do a handwritten card, a place card? And I don't know what you're paying for those cards, but I'll charge less.
Fantastic.
Which was a rather bold statement because they could have said it's a penny. But
Good point.
But anyway, it was more than that. And so they said, Jack, we'll give it a shot. Well, it soon became really his primary focus because there were so many banquets at the Wall, so many of these private functions with place cards. And Dad asked me one day he said, Harris, would you like to make some money? And of course, even at 8 or 9 years old, money was something that was exciting, earning money. and he said, you come to my office. It wasn't really an office. It was a room a little bit more than half this size, with a large table, which is his work table. And he said, this is a place card, and I'm going to write your name on it, and you'll take a look. So he did it in pencil first, then he did it in India ink with a crow quill pen. I remember that.
Very nice.
And then he said, let it dry, and of course I did. And then he said, erase the pencil, and I did. And he said, you did a good job. Now fold it. And I folded it. He said, now if I ask you to put it in a shoebox in alphabetical order, do you know? I said, yes, A's first and B's. Good, you got it.
Bravo.
And I said, I'll do it, Dad. Will I get paid? He said, yes. I said, oh, my God.
You're paying me for this.
How much? He said, I'll give you a penny for each card. I said, Dad, am I going to come to work with you?
You called him out.
And you're going to give me what if there are like 9 cards? I get 9 cents. I mean, I could be home playing stickball.
Yeah.
So he said, wait. There are often 500 or 600 cards.
There you go.
And I said, 500. Wait, $5 or $6 for me? Wow. He said, yeah. I said, you got it.
Bravo.
Yes. I mean, so,
why not?
So that's what we did, and to continue the story, so it became an every weekend kind of thing, almost every weekend, and I must confess I enjoyed it. And we would deliver the cards to the appropriate ballroom. In order to get there, we'd take the elevator either up to the Starlight Roof or down to the Bassett Living Room, Insert Room, and Empire Room, and I would be holding the shoebox. It was really heavy. Dad would hold it, and we would take the elevator. And it was amazing how many incredibly famous people we saw. Yeah. And the story that I tell is a true story. One day, the most incredibly beautiful blonde lady was in the elevator with a very tall, distinguished gentleman. And I whispered to Dad, can you introduce me? And he knew I didn't mean to the gentleman.
Bravo.
And he said, sure, Harris, let me introduce you to Ambassador Kennedy first. That was Ambassador Joseph Kennedy. He was in Great Britain. And then he said, I'd like you to meet Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Now, if I close my eyes, I can still feel her hug.
Wow.
Yeah, she gave me a hug.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
The hug was awesome. It was
memorable.
It really
overtly
was.
memorable.
Oh, it was amazing. and so that was really critical, that hug and meeting Marilyn. And of course, we met Jackie Robinson, we met Ty Cobb.
MacArthur.
We met General Douglas MacArthur.
Amazing.
We met Pope John. I mean, and so now years go by, and I'm ready to apply to college. And of course, we applied for all of fine arts because I inherited some of my dad's genes.
Sure.
I went to Music and Art High School in New York. I was talented. I had a one-man show when I was 10 years old.
Oh, that's awesome.
And some of my paintings are really quite extraordinary. I look at them today and I say, wow. But in the back of my mind was Marilyn. And
wait, not just your mind, but a lot of people.
Not the back of your mind. Remember the hug.
Oh, it was just so beautiful. And I said, Dad, would you mind terribly if instead of applying to all of the Cooper Union and Pratt and all of the fine arts colleges, I also found a hotel school that I could apply to. And he said, of course.
Awesome.
I said, but where? He said, let's look it up. So we didn't Google, but we did ask friends.
Didn't have them yet.
And we discovered that Cornell had one of the outstanding hospitality management schools. And Dad said, go ahead, fill out the application and apply. Well, never, ever, ever did I think I'd be accepted to Cornell. I mean, my grades were so-so. But I was one of the top swimmers in New York City.
Oh, bravo.
And they might have needed a backstroker really badly.
There you go.
So my art and my swimming and the fact that I worked for Dad on weekends might have all helped, but I was accepted.
Fantastic.
And so off to Cornell I went, and bye-bye to fine arts. The last paintings I have, and they're in my home, I did when I was probably 16, 17, 18 years old, and I think people who look at them say, wow, you really had some talent. I did fill a sketchbook when I was with Uncle Sam overseas, and some of the sketches are really quite nice. But I have not really done any serious painting or sketching in close to 60 years, I think.
Really?
Yeah. It's something I miss. I sculpted also when I was very young, but so I've dedicated myself to hospitality, and this is where I've been we've had our own company now for 44 years.
Bravo.
Never, ever, to answer your question, did I contemplate that I would be anything other than a successful general manager, working for somebody else. But it's just amazing what has happened in my life. Yes, I didn't do it by myself. I do believe there's a God who helped steer me in the right direction. I was fired from 3 or 4 different positions, but each time it was a blessing. And the last time was from the Mickey Mouse. I was head of their hotel division, and we opened, and the hotels ran full, and we got wonderful comments about our properties. And I was called in because I was contemplating a increase in pay.
Sure.
I hadn't had one in the 3 years I worked for Disney. And the meeting started off well. Harris, we really appreciate the job you've done. And then the word but.
Oh.
What does but have to do with this?
Exactly, yeah.
But we just don't think you'll ever become a Disney executive.
Okay.
So that was really a terrible, terrible shock.
At that point, did you feel like you were going to make a career at Disney before you heard that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I really loved it. And to demonstrate my love for the company, I volunteered on weekends to be Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, fantastic.
Did you really?
Wow.
I've got pictures of me with my...
That's great.
With my head on and then my head off.
We would never know.
But I was Winnie the Pooh.
That's crazy.
And it was just heartbreaking. I just didn't really fully comprehend. And then got another job, was fired from that, and then I said, no more.
Yeah.
And the oil embargo, you guys are too young to remember the oil embargo, but there was oil embargo. And of course, oil embargo in Orlando was just devastating. People couldn't drive.
Tourism.
They weren't checking into hotels. They weren't eating at restaurants. They weren't going to parks. And we were in a terrible economic situation. But this genius thought that it was a good time to buy a hotel. And I'm coming to the $20,000.
Okay.
And I started looking, and there are so many properties for sale, but something was missing in so many of them. Until I saw this little. Now this is 3 times the size of the original property. The original property is 256 rooms. We're now at 728.
Wow. I saw the pictures. It is totally different. You're right.
Yeah, it was just such a sweet little property with frontage on I-4, frontage on International Drive, frontage on Sand Lake Road.
Perfect.
I said, my God. So one day I walked in and went to the front desk and asked if I might speak to the general manager or the owner. And I was told the owner is here, and please sit down. I sat in the lobby, and within a relatively short period of time, a short, stocky gentleman came walking over to me, and he introduced himself. He said, I'm Jim Morgan. And I said, I'm Harris Rosen. And he said, Harris, I own the property. I understand you wanted to see me. And I said, yes, sir. And we're standing opposite each other. And I said, Mr. Morgan, I'm looking to buy a hotel. He took a step towards me. We were that close. He wrapped his arms around me.
Because of the timing, right?
He hugged me so tight.
Like Marilyn.
No,
Wasn't that good? Come on, Kevin. Come on, man.
Not even close. I'm sorry. God bless Jim. He's now. But it wasn't like. And he said, God has sent you.
Wow. Fantastic.
So we go into his little office, which is still an office here, and we chatted, and he was very emotional. He said he had a wife and 3 daughters, and he wasn't seeing much of them because the hotel was doing very badly. He said he didn't know anything about the business. He bought the property as a real estate investment, and clearly it wasn't really doing very well at that moment. And he said, "Harris, would you like to buy it?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I really think I would." He said, "I will arrange for a meeting with you and the lender." And the lender was Travelers out of, I think, Connecticut. And I said, "Fine." So a couple of weeks later, he called. He said, "Harris, Travelers is sending their rep, and we'll meet in my office and we'll chat." And so I went, and the young fellow was there from Travelers. He said, "Harris, do you have a resume?" And I did. I brought it with me. He said, wow, an officer in the United States Army, Fort Bragg basic training, 3.5 years with Uncle Sam, and then what a wonderful career, Cornell University. You're the perfect person for this property." I said, thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. And he said, "Would you like to buy it?" And I said, "Well, I would."
Price is important, yeah.
I would. Yeah. He said, "How much money do you have in the bank?" And I thought quickly to myself, that's not an appropriate question.
Right.
But I said, maybe he knows. I mean, that's how naive I was. Maybe he knows, and I better tell the truth. I said, "Sir, I have $20,000 in the bank."
Bingo, that's what we need.
Yeah, exactly.
He extended his hand.
Oh, wow.
He extended his hand. I thought I should shake it.
Yeah.
And he said, "We have a deal." I said, "We do?"
All 20,000?
He said, "Yes."
Wow.
And he said, "By the way, you will also have a mortgage that you will assume." I said, I really didn't understand what a mortgage was.
Sure.
And I said, "How much?" And he said, "It's $2.5 million.
Oh, time out. Yeah.
And in
I shook his
1970s.
hand. I shook his hand. I didn't really understand the implications of a mortgage.
Sure.
And so he said, "We will meet again and we'll close." So a week later, he came with his attorney, and I signed a bunch of papers.
Yeah.
He shook my hand again. He said, "Congratulations, you now own this property."
Wow.
Well, it began to sink in what I had done. I gave away all the money I had in the world. I had a $2.5 million mortgage I was responsible for. The economy was awful. Oil embargo was at its depth. How stupid was I? So I walked into what was now my office, and I cried. And I said, "Dear God, what have I done?" But I must confess that lurking in the shadows was an idea that I had. How might I operate the hotel? What might I do that others are not doing in order to give me a slight advantage, even during these terrible times?
Sure.
And that was motor coach, buses.
Wow.
Buses were still able to come.
Yeah.
They were able to get gas
Good
because
point.
gas stations would
Give
offer
it to
them.
buses.
Very nice.
That's right. The first dibs, because they were such good customers when things were really good. And so my plan was to visit all of the major bus companies in New York, in Massachusetts, and in New Jersey. And I put a list together. And then the question I asked myself was, now, wise guy, how are you going to get there?
Good question.
So I asked a young lady friend of mine if she would spend some time in the hotel while I was away. I said, "You'd be there maybe for a week or so." And she said she would. I said, "We're running about 15% occupancy, so not much is going on." And I went out front, had my little backpack, and I stuck my thumb out.
Wow.
You hitchhiked.
And I hitchhiked to New York. Now, I knew exactly who I was going to see. I brought along with me some business cards that I had made. And my concept was that I would meet the owner if I could. And telling the story, I thought that they would be kind of empathetic and say, "Boy, this kid schlepped all the way from
Orlando, yeah.
and he bought a hotel and he doesn't have any money, blah, blah, blah." At least they'll listen to me. Right. So I would have a nice chat, and they would say, "Rosen, you did it. Oh, wow. Now, if you need a place to stay, we'll take care of it."
Right, of course.
I mean, it was amazing.
Right.
They were
In your head, that's how it was playing out.
But they were so kind, so kind.
Yeah.
And then I said, "Look, I want you to take my card, and I want you to write on the back what you believe a fair rate is for you. Whatever rate you want. I don't care what it is. I will honor that rate for 2 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's what they said. Wow.
Yeah.
And they said, any rate, whatever rate, I will bring it back and send you a formal agreement. I kept the cards. $7.25 to $8.25.
Wow, really?
So in New York, I met with the 3 top guys. In New Jersey, with Domenico, the top guy. In Massachusetts, Paragon and Crimson, the 2 top guys. When I was in Massachusetts with Crimson and Paragon, I let them know I was so happy. Everyone gave me their little cards filled out with the rate. They said, Harris, when are you going home? And I said, tomorrow morning. How? My thumb. No. And so Jim Pendler, the president of Paragon, said, Harris, I'll find someone who's driving to Florida, and they'll give you a ride. He found someone, a couple, and they agreed to drive me to Orlando. It was a miracle, a miracle. And so they did. They drove me to Orlando. They then became my guest for the next 7 or 8 years until they passed away, for 1 month free, remembering how
fantastic
they were.
Fantastic.
So that's
a great story.
That's a really good story.
But that's a 20. So when I say only in America, where else could something like this happen?
You're right.
It was just
You're right.
absolutely amazing.
True.
And then back to Orlando, and I have to tell you this, the buses started rolling in.
Fantastic.
And even though the rate was so low.
Well, comparably, what was a good rate back then?
Well, probably $12 or $13.
Okay.
So it was about 50%.
So you're doing
discount.
about 50, 50%.
About a 50% discount.
Did you make it up in volume, though?
I not only did I make it up in volume, but I lived in the hotel for 16 years, and I had about 8 or 9 jobs. So I lived there. I was head of security with a wonderful German Shepherd who really was the chief of security.
Rennie.
We see it on the wall over there, right?
Oh my God, that's right. That's Rennie.
Yeah.
That's right.
Isn't that perfect? That's perfect.
Rennie is buried in a beautiful coffin right here.
So fantastic.
So that was just so incredible. So I was security. I also was the person they would call at night if anyone had a stop toilet, because I didn't want to have somebody just sit around.
So it was every
You were the
job.
night watchman.
Me. I was that. I also was a breakfast cook. And at night I was the buffet guy. I carved the meat at night, and
so your overhead was crazy.
Oh, no, I saved in money. My recollection is somewhere between $250,000 to $300,000.
That's fantastic.
That went right to the bottom line.
There you go.
And so the buses started coming. We were doing so beautifully. People were wondering, where the hell is Rosie getting
doing
that?
that?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't realize what I did to get it. And then within 6, 7, 8 months, the embargo was lifted.
There you go.
Now they could all come.
Now, lenders were looking at my little hotel and seeing how full I was, and they were coming to me and saying, do you want to buy another one? You want to buy another one? I said,
one
I
at a
can't
time.
work 2 hotels.
I can't. But about 10 months, a group came from Continental Bank of Philadelphia. Boy, how am I remembering this? And they met with me and they said, Harris, everyone is just talking about how well you're doing. We own a hotel down the street, which is a disaster. In fact, the owner had converted into a house of prostitution. And I said, which hotel? And they mentioned it was a Solage. Now she's long dead, so I won't hurt her to say that. And I said, I'll take a look at it. They said, please, we need you desperately. So I took a beautiful little hotel, 251 rooms.
Wow.
And they said, Harris, would you make us an offer? And I said, let me think about it. So I thought about it. I was in a little pool and thinking about it. And I said, look, I needed like a hole in the head, but what if I'd come up with some really crazy idea that they like and that bodes well for me? And so I kept thinking. So the deal was, I will manage the hotel for you guys. No management fee. Every nickel of profit or every penny of profit you get. You match it, and at the end of 5 years, if together your match and what I'm giving you is enough to pay off the mortgage, I own the hotel free and clear.
Oh, wow.
If not, I have the first option for whatever the balance is.
Sure.
They shook my hand.
Brilliant.
This is what's so amazing. June 24th, 1975, which is the year to the day I bought the Quality Inn, which was this property, I closed on that second hotel.
Are you kidding me?
June 24th, 1975. So now, from practically penniless, mentally in a mess, now a year later, I own one hotel with the prospects of owning a second one.
That's fantastic.
And within 4 years, I paid off the property.
Wow.
So
wow.
I generated $2.5 million.
A year earlier, by the way.
But I did. I was 175 because they matched it.
Right.
So $1,750,000 in 4.5 years. And there
Wow.
I was. There I was. And it was me and Rennie, and lived in the hotel for the next 15 years. Didn't get married until I was in my 50s. And here we are.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you wonder, how is it possible?
Well, can I just say that because you're spiritual, I'm spiritual too.
Yes.
And my belief is that everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
And when you meet towards the end, you know, me, for myself, I'm thinking of where I'm at now as opposed to where I was 15, 20 years ago. And you start to look back at all the things that happened. And if you just said no to one of those events, that would have changed everything. And you could have said, I made a big mistake, I want out of this, I don't want to do it, but you didn't.
No, I didn't.
And not only did you not do that, but you went to up north.
Oh, yeah.
And you brilliantly figured out a way, which nobody else could figure out,
Right.
how to get you through till the oil embargo
Yeah.
dropped. And
Yeah.
that was the brilliance of it. And, you know, it's keeping your eyes open, and it's listening spiritually. It's listening because there is a plan. You're where you are right now and what you do for Tangelo Park and for Paramore and Haiti, you couldn't have done if you had never done this. Well, no, I'm sorry. That's not true. It doesn't mean that you couldn't have done it. It's you were better prepared to do what you do. And I think I'd love to hear more about Tangelo Park.
And you know what I like about the story, and it leads us right to, you know, some of the things that have, like for example, education. You talk about education all the time, you know, and it's making, you know, it's just simply falls into place. But before we get to explaining Tangelo Park, this show is called Crossroad. What was that crossroad? And you were becoming very successful as a hotelier. Your hotels were doing well. What was that moment? Can you tell us about that moment where things changed and talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, it was probably around 25, 26 years ago.
Sure.
And I was sitting at my desk, and my office is in the same place as where I live.
That's fantastic.
So I've been there for almost 44 years.
Wow.
So I'm sitting at my desk, and we're planning our 6th and 7th hotels. The 5th property just opened. And I'm thinking about what I'm going to do next and planning. And I said, whoa, time out. It's now time for you to say thank you, God. It's now time for you to take a deep breath and appreciate everything that He has done for you. And I said, okay. I took a deep breath. And then I heard a voice say, Harris, okay. Now I'd like you to think about offering a helping hand to those who need a helping hand. And I said, well, to myself, what might that be? And then suddenly the word education popped into my mind. Education. Mom and Dad said education. Look at where my brother is. Look at where I am. Education. What if we did something that offered a helping hand in terms of providing educational resources that these youngsters might not have? So I called a couple of folks who I knew, Sarah Sprinkle, who was an early childhood expert, and Bill Spoon, who was principal of high school, Dr. Phillip's high school, I think, at that time. And I invited them to sit down and chat with me. Within a very short period of time, we created what is now referred to as the Tangelo Park program. Back then, it was the Tangelo Park pilot program. Free preschool for all of the kids in the neighborhood, 2, 3, and some 4-year-olds, and free college, public college in Florida. Plenty of public colleges.
Good ones.
And good ones also. And that was it. And in the Army, I learned KASS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. So that was.
I live by that rule.
so that was it. And all that we needed was a neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So we called Mabel Butler, who was a friend and a county commissioner. I said, Mabel, I'm looking for a neighborhood that needs help. She said, are you kidding? I said, yeah, I'm looking.
A full neighborhood.
And she said, there are so many.
Yeah.
I said, well, one that's, in this neck of the woods. She said, I'll be right over. So Mabel drove over and then drove me to Tangelo Park. And we drove around. And she said, this neighborhood needs help desperately. And the folks are ready for change. They're tired of drugs. They're tired of prostitution. They're tired of the way they're living. So that was the beginning. So I went there with Mabel, and she introduced me to the principal, Dr. Bob Allen of Tangelo Park Elementary School. Within a relatively short period of time, we arranged to have a neighborhood meeting where he was going to introduce me. And he said, Harris, now don't be surprised if there are some skeptics in the group.
Of course.
Because what you're suggesting is a little bit unique.
Yeah.
So I got up there, and the place was packed. It was a little auditorium for Tangelo Park Elementary. They had a little auditorium there, standing room only. And I started telling the story. And I could tell that people were wondering what's in it for this
What's
guy.
in it for you? Right.
That's right.
You're right.
And I said, let me tell you something, folks. I know it sounds strange, but let me create a situation that might make things appear a little bit more exciting. We're not going to wait till the 2-year-olds graduate from high school before we start the college scholarship program.
Mm-hmm.
All of the youngsters from the neighborhood who are in high school now that have been accepted to college, I'll pay everything. Well, the place went crazy.
Of course it did.
When they said everything, what do you mean? Was there tuition, room and board, books?
Everything.
Full ride.
That's fantastic.
I don't think I've received so many hugs and kisses in my life.
Well deserved.
and that was it. So simple.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was, where were we going to create the 2, 3, 4-year program?
Sure.
So I had an idea. Why don't we go to homeowners and ask if they would agree to have a part of their home converted, and at my expense, to a little school that will accommodate a maximum of 6 kids. We will certify them as certified caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
We'll pay them a nice salary. We'll take care of all of their needs, and that will be our preschool component.
Such a great idea.
Within a
Such a
relatively
great
short
idea.
period of time, we had 6 volunteers. And then we needed 7, we had 7. Now we're at 10. 10 little preschools in Tangelo Park. Well, I look back, it's been 25 years. High school graduation rates back then were about 45%. Today, 100%.
Wow.
Crime in the neighborhood, down 65%. About a year and a half ago, Sheriff Deming met with me and said, Harris, I just want to tell you something. We now refer to Tangelo Park as an oasis.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean, Sheriff? There's less crime here than there is in some of the most affluent
That's right.
Wow.
He said, Harris, God bless you. And I said, well, God bless you too. And so we have probably sent several hundred youngsters to college.
Unbelievable.
Graduation rates from college at 78%.
Ugh.
College graduation rates nationwide, about 35%. So we're way above that in 4 years.
Yeah.
78% in 4 years. And to suggest that the neighborhood had been transformed would be a gross understatement.
Right.
Definitely.
It has been transformed.
Even property values, correct?
Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
thanks. So when I started, property value was probably about $45,000 for a single family residence. A residence sold recently for $175,000.
That's fantastic.
So here we are. And folks have heard about us and have written about us, and we've been on some shows.
Yes, sir.
And we've spoken to some of the wealthiest individuals in America, and we've spoken to some of the representatives, if they have foundations, Nada, nada, nada. And that's the great dilemma. Why haven't other people replicated a program that's proven to be so successful? And so finally, out of frustration, I said, we'll adopt another neighborhood, and we adopted Paramore, which is about 6 times the size of Tangelo Park, and rather spread out.
It poses different challenges, right?
It does. And one of the great challenges was, where are the single-family homes?
Right.
None. So with Orange County Public Schools, we decided that I would work hard to have a tax passed which would generate revenue to build a school in the Paramore community.
That's right.
And so it passed, and I supported it. Not something I generally do with much enthusiasm in terms of raising taxes, but I did support it. And together we built. Have you seen it?
I haven't had a chance to go visit it yet.
No, you guys.
We will.
We will
Go to Paramore. Ask if you can see we call it PS8, preschool through 8th grade.
Yep.
It is, I don't know if it exists anyplace else in America, preschool through 8th grade.
I can't wait to check it out.
And we are the preschool component. We designed it, we furnished it, we helped construct it, and it is now an incredible, incredible, incredible school. We didn't want to move too far away from the concept of what we created in Tangelo, that is the single-family residence.
Sure.
So when you go into the courtyard where the little schools are, it's like little homes.
Oh, I love it.
Little homes, each accommodating 12 students with 2 teachers. And it's just the most amazing
12 students with 2 teachers.
And that's the thing, the attention.
Well, the six per teacher was what we wanted to
Right.
But the attention they're getting is fantastic, I'm sure.
It is just absolutely amazing. And so here we are now with Paramore and Tangelo. In fact, when I leave you guys
tonight, that's right.
That's right.
Yep.
I'm going to Jones High School, so it's PS8 and then Jones. PS8 and Jones. At Tangelo, it's Tangelo Park Elementary. Is it Southwest Middle School, and then Dr. Phillips. Yes. Here it's PS8 and then Jones. So I'm going there tonight. And what's so exciting about tonight is that we were asked by Rollins to meet with them, and we did. And they said that they really loved the school, that the college had a tremendous reputation, but they wanted to diversify a bit. They felt that they weren't doing enough.
To reach out, correct.
Exactly, reach out. And so we heard about your Tangelo Park program, and we're wondering if we might work together. And I said, sure, happy to do it. And I said, what is your tuition? Because we're doing public schools. And they said, I think $60,000. And I said, for the 4 years? No.
Oh,
per year.
Oh.
So
take a deep breath.
I said, woo.
Yeah.
Well, they gave me an attractive, reduced tuition.
Very nice.
And they will take 3 students per year.
That's awesome.
And they've accepted 3 of our kids.
That's fantastic. And Rollins is a fantastic school. I know.
Oh,
my goodness.
3 of our kids are Jones, and I'm going there tonight.
Bravo.
To give, I don't know exactly how many scholarships.
I think we heard 2. I believe we heard 2.
Well, it'll be 3 for Rollins.
3 for Rollins? Okay.
And then, I don't know, another 10, 15, 20. At Tangelo recently, we gave out, I think, 22 or 23.
That's unbelievable.
But even though the population of Paramore is 6 times the size, we're just beginning. It's going to take time for high school graduation rates to
increase.
It's going to take time for kids to say, I really want to go to college. So,
but what you started.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the beauty in this is, first of all, tonight, it must be a gratifying feeling to stand up there and hand out 3.
So let me tell you something.
Okay.
So I've already been giving scholarships to the Jones kids. And last year, I don't know how many I gave out, 10 or 12 or 15, whatever it was. And I'm talking about the scholarship program. This is the first time these kids have heard about it, and they're just going crazy. And their parents were invited. They didn't know why they were invited, but they soon found out. And as I'm talking about the scholarship program, I'm hearing kind of strange noise behind me. And when I was done with my little spiel, I turned around. It was the principal who was crying.
Oh.
Wow.
So
how does it feel to influence like that? That is so good. That is so good. That's got to be a great feeling.
It is a great feeling. It is a wonderful feeling. And once again, I'm just so grateful, as you suggest. Every little twist and turn
there you go.
brought me to where I am today. And so I'm just so grateful for
Wouldn't it be great if the business model that you've created, instead of just dumping money into a situation, getting your hands dirty, getting involved, you figured out what they needed, and it didn't cost as much to do that, and yet you did so much more.
And Mr. Rosen, to back up that, I've had a chance to walk through with you many years ago, Tangelo Park. You were giving us a great tour, and let me tell you, when you go into the daycares, so to speak, and you physically sit down with these kids and you have fun with them, I see the joy on your face. I really saw it, and we had a chance to go with you, but to back that up, I really it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Well, I've been blessed beyond anything I've ever imagined.
I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah, totally.
I can see it in your eyes.
And so we just
how
back.
And I know you've made an effort to get others to take this formula, this successful formula. Is there anything that you think might be able to move that needle to get things? I mean, what are your obstacles that you think are you're running into?
Well, I don't know. We've thought about it a lot. In 25 years, why wouldn't anyone else?
Right.
We know that Mr. Zuckerberg at Facebook gave a couple of $100 million to Newark and admits now that it was a complete failure. We know that others have interesting initiatives throughout the world. Why? So we narrowed it down to a couple of potential reasons. One, it's a long time commitment.
Yeah.
And some of these folks are used to 3, 4, 5 years, and then
They're out.
We used to use the term in perpetuity when asked. We stopped doing that.
It scares them a little, right?
More than a little.
Yeah.
Because that's a long
life.
time.
It's a lifetime.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
It's not inexpensive. Millions of dollars per neighborhood, sometimes $3 or $4 million per neighborhood. So people have to be people of means. That's another reason, perhaps, that some folks don't hop on board. Number 3, these folks are all, the wealthy individuals are all extremely creative and talented and have their own ideas.
Sure.
And this is not their own idea. And that might be a hindrance.
Sure.
They might want to do what we create, not what somebody else created.
Sure.
And so, nothing.
It's kind of unfortunate.
And we've spoken to so many people, and nobody else has said, okay, now let me sort of move in this direction.
Sure.
We spoke a little bit about the players kneeling, and they have every right to do that, and I respect their right to do that. But the kneeling isn't solving any problems.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
It's not creating less poverty. It's not helping kids go to school.
Correct.
It's not providing what these children need so desperately.
Sure.
So why not, if I'm a National Football League, Major League Baseball, soccer, basketball, hockey owner, why don't I sit down with my players and say, guys, let's do something that we could really be proud of, that really will help.
That's a great
idea. And our stadium or our field is downtown. Most of them are, right?
Sure.
Football, baseball,
that's right.
Soccer, basketball, right downtown.
Right downtown.
Let's take a look in our neighborhood, and if we can find an underserved community, let's recreate what Rosen has done in
It's a great
Orlando.
idea.
Love it.
Let's do a Tangelo Park or Paramore. And then maybe in 5 or 10 years we won't have to kneel anymore.
There you go.
Because we've created equality.
That's so good.
We've now leveled the playing field.
That's fantastic.
We have infused hope in the neighborhood.
Nice.
And so I don't know.
This is why I'm so glad we're here. If there's anything I can do to get the word out, I'm going to do it. And for several years, we've felt close to this idea of Tangelo Park, and I'm so glad that you're moving into Paramore now, and that's a fantastic story.
But you have to promise me you'll go down.
Oh my goodness, I can't wait.
Will.
Oh no,
I can't wait.
No. I swear to God, you will not believe what you see. Now the neighborhood itself is the neighborhood itself.
It's still Paramore.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you walk into that little preschool.
That's fantastic.
And you will say, "Oh my God!" Then you walk into little classrooms. You see the little mailbox to make it look a little bit more like a home.
I love it.
Yes.
When I grew up in California, and more specifically when I was in LA during the 80s, I remember driving through South Central and seeing some of the most desperate neighborhoods, graffiti, trash everywhere. And I remember watching kids. I remember sitting at a stoplight watching kids going to school and thinking, I wonder if they think this is the world. Like, they never leave this area. Do they think this is I thought, wouldn't it be nice to take a bunch of these kids in a bus and say, here's a park. You know what I mean? And when I think about what you say, I think about the beauty in that, because here's the thing. You just said the neighborhood's still a neighborhood. That's right. But you know what you've done? You've put a seed in there for them to look at and go, there's hope.
Oh,
that's what you've done.
And by the way, there are good people out there too.
Oh, let me say this: we've infused hope. That's a key. Hope is a key.
Yeah.
Hope is a key. But this is crazy, because I believe this fervently after doing this for 25 years, that there is as much, listen to this, intellectual talent in the most underserved communities in America as there is in the most affluent gated communities.
Wow.
That's right.
Okay, I can't prove that. But based on what I've observed
I think you've
in
already
25 years,
proven
if I'm correct, how many millions of minds are we wasting?
Absolutely.
What was
That's
it?
right.
United Negro College Fund says a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
That's right.
What are we doing?
No, you're right.
Are we crazy?
You're right. Oh,
I'm sorry.
And you're talking about game changers. You're talking about.
I don't blame you for being frustrated.
No,
because you put
passionate.
25 years into this.
Yeah.
And you would think after that much time, because here's the thing, you could have quit after Tangelo Park. You could have just said, nah. No. But you didn't, and that says who you are.
Yeah.
It's the people that don't want to do what you want to do, Mr. Rosen.
And
I think that you are going to change things even more than you think you are.
And here's another thing.
You're going to open up minds.
I had a conversation with you a while back. It was many years ago where you said, look, it's becoming easier for me because kids in Tangelo Park are getting their own scholarships now. They're doing their own thing.
And that's a great point. I forgot that.
Yeah.
But as the years have gone by, the percentage of contribution that I'm making for scholarships has diminished dramatically.
That's right.
Dramatically.
Interesting.
Yep.
And I started getting really worried about that. I said, my God, what's going on?
Right.
Only to discover that these youngsters were qualifying for
other colleges.
So many other scholarships.
Right.
So.
We spoke to one of them, and she said, I was offered, but I didn't have to take it. I wanted someone else to have it because I was able to get my own scholarship. I mean, these are the things that everybody needs to know about.
Wow.
You do make a difference, and I know that there's got to be frustration when you try to do these things and get other people to listen, but it's your efforts that are not going unrecognized, and it's obvious. And I know you and I are going down and see Paramore. But I know when we walk in those doors, because I know what that neighborhood's like. I spent a lot of years here. I know what that neighborhood's like.
It's really interesting that you say that, because when we first started, the teachers were asked to leave right after their last class.
Right.
It wasn't safe.
Sure. Yeah.
And they were escorted onto the property.
Right.
It
Amazing.
tells you a lot.
Amazing.
And the change. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Mr. Rosen, we don't want to take up too much more of your time, but we want to do one thing. What do you want to leave us with? What do you want to leave the people who are listening today? What do you want to leave them with?
Oh boy. I think I want to leave them with what drives me. We love America. And here's a situation that is fixable. We just need people to raise their hand and say, okay, we'll adopt a neighborhood also. That's all.
Yeah.
And imagine, and I do, if there were individuals who would step forward and adopt underserved communities where they live or where they work, and we would change, let me leave on this note, we will change America one underserved community at a time.